Hey guys, and welcome back to Hoosier Hardware. Today we are reviewing what is usually looked at as the least exciting component of a build to review, and yes, I'm even including power supplies in that sort of reviewer black hole. But today we're looking at some RAM that Adamanta was nice enough to send out for me. They sent me 32 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, so we're gonna put it through its paces and see if it's worth your money. Now, because this is a memory review, this is going to be a little bit of a quick video because reviewing memory is actually fairly straightforward. And in fact, usually when I'm building a system, I recommend just buying the cheapest stuff at the rated speed that you want. And I'll come back to pricing here in a little bit, but we do have a physical tour of the RAM to take a look at, and frankly, it's pretty basic on that front too. We have no heat spreader of any kind on this memory. It's very similar to that Timetech RAM that I took a look at a while back. We have a black PCB, no heat spreader whatsoever, so because it is a black PCB, it is going to fit into most builds. At least visually, it's going to fit in just fine. It's not going to be the show stealer, though, that some other RAM like the RGB RAM that I compare this to in this review. Now, beyond its physical looks, the other thing I wanted to mention with this RAM that may be a detractor to you and it may not be, it really depends on how you use it, is that there was no DOCP profile, which I assume would also mean there's no XMP profile if you're on an Intel-based system. So the option just wasn't there in the BIOS, at least on my Asus motherboard, where it was with the other RAM I was taking a look at. So you are going to have to key in timings and voltages and all that sort of thing yourself if you want to get the absolute rated speeds and the rated timings that this thing ships with. However, I did find that my motherboard picked all those up pretty much perfectly fine by just leaving everything on auto and then double checking timings and that sort of thing. So the lack of XMP isn't really a big deal, especially considering we're talking about RAM rated at 2666 megahertz. So we're not talking about like 3200, 3600, or even 4000 megahertz. It's pretty basic speeds. It's not high speed by any means. It's also not the lowest bottom of the barrel speeds, though at this point in time, 2666 is a little bit on the slower side for sure. So for the testing, I just ran the IDA memory benchmark. Basically what I was looking for was stability and making sure this stuff actually worked, and then just taking a look at the raw numbers of read, writes, latency, that sort of thing. And what I found here is when compared to faster RAM, and I'll come back to why I'm comparing it to RGB RAM rated at 3200 megahertz here in a minute, but when it's compared to faster RAM, obviously the Adamanta stuff comes in slower. It's just not as fast, and that's exactly what we would expect. That being said, on Ryzen systems, this speed differential will be a little bit bigger of a deal because we do know that Ryzen definitely benefits from faster memory in general than does Intel systems. So if you're looking at an Intel build, then maybe that speed difference doesn't really make that much of a difference in your day-to-day usage. You probably wouldn't even be able to notice it. And even in Ryzen systems, unless you're benchmarking things, you're probably not going to notice a big difference between 2666 megahertz and 3200 megahertz, though the difference will be a little bit more pronounced depending on your workflow with Ryzen-based systems. And going back to my original recommendations of with RAM, I normally recommend get the capacity you want at the speed you want and then pick basically the cheapest thing out there that you're okay with the looks. Now, the looks are completely subjective. Maybe you like bare metal PCB here with no heat spreader whatsoever, in which case this Adamanta RAM is right down your alley. But if you like something with a little bit more bling, then something with RGB or even just a nice looking heat spreader is definitely gonna be a better value for you. And this is where we get into the price discussion, because right now one of these sticks, and these come in 16 gigabyte increments, you can get one stick at a time if you want. And of course, Adamanta offers a wide range. And you can check out the links below, by the way, to see more of their RAM. But what we have here at the time of reviewing is one 16 gigabyte stick for $75. And that's a decent deal if you're only trying to get one stick of 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. In fact, looking at Amazon, you're hard pressed to find an Amazon seller that is selling directly through Amazon that actually prices things much lower than that. So if you're in that sort of rare use case where you just need 16 gigabytes, you need one stick, and you're just looking for a reasonable speed at the cheapest cost, then this Adamanta RAM is actually right in the running for your dollar. But if you're somebody that is looking for a dual channel setup with 32 gigabytes running on 2 DIMMs, these 2666 megahertz at CL19 for $150 if you're getting 2 of them, that's not the best deal out there. And the reason that I compared these DIMMs to my Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro modules is because I paid $156 for that kit. That's a 32 gigabyte kit of Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro rated at 3200 megahertz and CL16, which across the board is just a much better value than these two DIMMs because you're getting a significant performance bump and you're barely paying more. And in fact, you can get 3000 megahertz RAM or even possibly 3200 megahertz RAM that just doesn't have quite as much bling as the Vengeance RGB Pro for the same price as getting two of these sticks. So if you only need one stick, this may be a decent value out there looking across the board at what is actually out there on the market. But if you need two of these, there are better options than buying just two of these sticks. You can get a kit of dual channel 32 gigabyte RAM for cheaper that looks better, probably performs quite a bit better as well, so probably turn a different direction for that. But of course, I want to hear from you guys. What type of RAM are you running? Specifically, if you're somebody that's running RAM that's a little bit off the beaten path, let me know what your RAM configuration is in the comments down below. And once again, before we get out of here, a big thank you to Adamanta for sending out those RAM modules for review. But if you like this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, and comment. All those things help out the channel a lot. You can follow me both on Instagram and on Twitter at Hoosier Hardware. And as always, I'll let YouTube queue up a couple more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you guys in the next video.